Hi, you guys. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everyone? Let me say good morning to you guys. Good morning, Carol W. Good morning, Tony. Good morning, call me Sadie. Good morning, Margie, Rachel Lee. Good morning, Margie. And good morning, Brandy. It's good to see everybody. How are you? I hope everybody had a good afternoon yesterday. And I want to start out by saying I'm sorry. I did want to cover the Lori Vallow, or not Lori Vallow, Donna Adelson there. I do have something with Lori Vallow. Hey, RJ, good morning. I do have something with Lori to cover, but I wanted to cover Donna Adelson yesterday. The thing is, the hearing was held by Zoom, and I did not have a Zoom link. And I'm still a little confused. I will tell you this, though, you guys. There is some type of allegation on from the defense about something that the prosecution is doing that is against an order that the judge issued, and it has to do with discovery. And I think that is why all of the Leon County clerk, their website, which has you can just find Donna's by herself, but the easiest way to do it is if you go to their, basically cases of interest, high profile cases. If you click on that link, it'll pull up a bunch, but Donna is right there. So is Catherine McManwa and Sigfredo. But none of the information, if you go to click on view, when you pull up their docket, you can't actually view any of the information. And I suspect that that's the issue. But I can't be sure. So I'm just going to, I know that there is another hearing that's scheduled for May 16th. I know that Wendy Adelson has been, or was supposed to be, deposed. Oh, did you, Sadie? Call me Sadie. I don't it's so hard because I know that there's been a name change, and it's yeah, hard for me to call you that. But uh yeah, so I'm not like, I don't think it was that big of a deal. And so, but I promised that I would cover it. But so after I got off the live yesterday, I told you guys I had bought these um little little flower pots that you can paint from Walmart. And let me just say this. Those flower pots, I bought 2 of them. They're little. And they cost me $3. And let me tell you how long they entertained my little Chicky Nuggy Pot Pie Esquire granddaughter. For 2 hours. Okay? $3, 2 hours. It was fantastic. We had the best time. We talked, we joked. We had the best time. But after that, I had to spend quite a bit of time getting paint off of her. And then, it was time to start getting dinner made and all of those things. And so after dinner, I was like so full. My daughter made the best chicken last night, and it was delicious. And I was so full. So I'm sorry. I was tired. I need to do something because I need to learn how to juggle my schedule a little bit better. And yeah, it is something else. So let me say hi to people because I missed. Hey, Patricia, good morning. Good morning, Kimberly. Good morning, Brandy. Good to see you. Good morning, Nitka Ditka. So, good morning, Edith. Yes, Call Me Sadie says Donna appeared by Zoom. I kept thinking, see, Sarah, Donna didn't need to feel the need to be in the courtroom. And I think Sarah might have been amenable to potentially a Zoom. She just wanted to be included. But She wanted to be included more than just present and hearing all of the things in the courtroom. She wanted to be co-counsel. Let's be honest, Sarah. Let's be honest. Also, speaking of Sarah, she's got some shenanigans going on in her um, divorce proceedings because it's still ongoing, evidently. And Tanika's 2 cents has been covering it, and it's quite interesting and funny as well. So let me when I start the testimony, I'll drop Tanika's 2 cents because it is quite interesting. Oh, Donna didn't say a word. Wow. Good for you, Donna, exercising restraint. Too bad you couldn't do that in planning, plotting, paying for your son in law to be murdered. You're still gross. She's still a nightmare. Anyway, but I decided, you guys, that this will be the official um, thumbnail for everything Donna Adelson. I might change up her face, but the overall scheme and theme will be this. I like it. I feel like because she's so I don't want to be, they call her defense, the mafia grandmother. Okay, whatever. Nobody thinks she's a mafiosa, but it's funny because they made such a tongue in cheek remark about it that now it's, clearly the defense doesn't understand the rules of the playground. Never, never, never tell people when something bothers you because then they'll just use it again. Duh. All right. So, yeah, whole mess. Good morning, Violet. Good to see you. All right. So we have come to it at last, the very end of the trial. So the agenda for today is to listen to the closing. Because the burden is on the defense, they go first. The state gets a closing argument, and this time the defense gets a rebuttal. We'll hear a there's one other video I want to play for you, some about the jury, and then we'll get the verdict, and then we'll call it a day. And then tomorrow we'll hear her sentencing. Okay. And then, what is today? Wednesday? Yes. Mike. Guess what it is? Hump day. Hey, ATS News. Good to see you. You're so sweet. She always comes in and supports me and always wants to remind everybody to hit the like. And she says, please and thank you. She's got manners. She's great. She's fantastic. Oh, call me Sadie. So yeah, that's what we got going on today. Also, before I forget, let me hide. Let's see. Edith, thank you so much for being a member for 8 months. I appreciate you supporting me and the channel very much. Couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you so much. Okay, so today's Wednesday, so Thursday, uh, we'll wrap up with Anissa, and then we'll go into Morgan and listen to her sentencing and all of that, and then move through the girls' conditional release hearings. Okay. And that ought to take us right up until Lori Vallow decides she's gonna whatchamacallit, she's gonna represent herself and put on a case. But I do have something with Lori that I want to cover. What's Wednesday? I think I can do it tonight, actually. So look for me tonight. Oh, look at ATS. You're so good to me, ATS. ATS says, love the community. You, this channel, Jen. Oh, I love you too, ATS. You are a swell gal. All right. Good morning, Quiet. Tosh, good to see you. Where is that? Right here. Let's see. I don't think I missed anybody. I think I greeted everybody as they came in. Now, without further ado, yes, this is where we're going. Call me Sadie. Call me Sadie. I was watching Courtroom Insider earlier. Lori is too much. Yes, too much in a way that's not enjoyable. But I just love the way Nate Eaton reads her for filth, but he gives it, he does it in a church read way. No cussing, none of that, And I love a good church read. The best church read I ever heard was on Real Housewives of Atlanta, their reunion show from Phaedra Parks herself. When she read Kendra for Absolute Filth, I lived for it. Lived. Okay. So let's, without further ado, really get started. Okay. I know everybody, it's this defense attorney that is going to be presenting the closing statement. So let me just go ahead and make this face. I'm not a fan of her closing, of her just in general. I'm not a fan of her style. She's clearly a good attorney as far as, she knows what she's doing and all of that. And she's advocating very hard for her client, which I can appreciate. But I'm just not a fan of her style. Oh my gosh. From Kyle. You're such a liar, Camille. Actually, I think what she actually said, because it's bleeped, but what she actually says, you're such a fucking liar, Camille. No, Camille, that's who you are pretending to be. Yeah. I do like that one. There's another one from, there's a few from the series, all of the franchises that live rent free in my head. But there's this meme. Actually, it might be a GIF that's gone around for years and years and years. Okay, and it's a still from when Kyle was in the original Halloween, because she's the little girl that the other girl's Annie is babysitting. Okay, and she's sitting there in her little costume eating popcorn, and the thing underneath it says, just sitting here planning to steal Kim's goddamn house. It's my favorite. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Who can forget? Is it Sheree? Yes, Sheree. Who gonna check me, boo? When she got into it with that party planner. Classic. Also, the other thing, that this is just off topic, but I feel like we can come in here and just chit chat a little bit. The other one the other image that just lives absolutely rent free in my head is when Nene's husband, Greg showed up to Kim's Halloween party. Was it even Kim's? I can't remember. No, I don't think it was Kim's. I forget who was hosting this Halloween party, but Nene came as an exterminator and Greg came as a roach. Y'all, if you're ever having a bad day and you just need a little levity and you need a little pick-me-up, I'm telling you right now, Google Greg Leaks dressed as a cockroach. Instant, automatic day brightener. It's perfect. I meant to highlight this one. Hey, Roro, good to see you, babe. How you doing? All right, you ready? Let's hit it.
On the way, I said now. On the way, I said now. And then William said, don't be afraid, I'm only a little kitty cat. ballistic, go crazy.
That is the Anissa Weier we are talking about, a 12-year-old child shivering in an interview room with a trained detective.
All right, we barely made it 22 seconds in, shivering. Let me just stop right there. The dramatics are not necessary, ma'am. Okay? Yeah, she's a 12-year-old girl, but I've seen grown people shivering in interrogation rooms. Know why? Because they're effing cold. That's it. That's all. She's not shivering from fear. You need to stop.
Not the young lady that sits in court today. Those shades of that child you heard yesterday still remain within her, needing help. While Anissa couldn't stab Payton, in her broken mind she knew it had to be done, to prove to the unbelievers, to prove she wasn't crazy, and to protect her family from the tall, tentacled figure she and Morgan had seen in the woods near their homes while they were on the bus, in the woods near their friends, and in the woods near their families.
I'm going to need to stop you right there, but then I got distracted by something, so let me rewind it. When she says the words "to prove to the unbelievers," to prove she wasn't crazy, and to protect her family, I wonder, isn't one of the tests of sanity if you question your sanity? Because I think people that are truly insane don't question their insanity because it's reality for them. Maybe. I don't know, but let's keep going.
From the tall, tentacled figure she and Morgan had seen in the woods near their homes while they were on the bus, in the woods near their friends, and in the woods near their families. She knew that there was danger, and she knew this because, as she told Trasani, the wiki told me. Over and over again, that's what the internet told me. That's what the wiki told me. The wiki, as if the wiki was a person telling her what there was. It doesn't matter what or when Morgan told her about the deal she made.
I don't think she referred to the wiki as if it was a person. I say the Walmarts. Does that mean I think the Walmarts are a person? I say the YouTubes. Does that mean I think the YouTubes are a person? No, it does not.
With their personal devil, Slender Man. The wiki had already told her that he could read her mind, that he was always watching, that he could be anywhere in the blink of an eye, that he stalked, stole, and
I'm feeling extra spicy today, so he's always watching. So he's Roz from Monsters Inc. Let me see if I can do it. Always watching. Get out of here. I don't I'm not saying that Anissa wasn't mentally ill. I don't think she believed in Slender Man, not the way that Morgan did. Absolutely not. You can't, and there is nothing that I've heard thus far that has moved me off of that opinion.
strangled children and their families.
8 to 14 feet tall. He's, like I said, a tall guy who constantly wears a suit with a red tie. He doesn't have a face. His skin is white. And at his own will, he can exploit these tendrils from his back and strangle his victims. From what the creepypasta wiki said, he targets children most. Okay. So I was really scared knowing that Slender could easily kill my whole family in 3 seconds.
As Detective Trasani said, wow, this sounds crazy. Because it is. This belief was the product of a mental illness, a shared delusional disorder grown between two troubled children whose loose ties to reality had been undone by fake news on the World Wide Web.
Just a second. I'm going to say good morning to Harley Quinn and Neat Noodle and Did it go? Shade the Hedgehog and Crime Crochet Coiffé. Good to see you. Hope you're feeling better, babe. All right, let's keep going. I promise I'm not going to keep pausing, but I find this closing argument preposterous and quite frankly, full of cockamamie bullshit. That's all.
Together, they drifted deeper and deeper into this belief until, sucked down by the whirlpool of the web, their unformed minds, and their mental health disorders, it eliminated their ability to control their own behavior, to see the strangeness and the wrongfulness of what they believed. You've heard from 3 different doctors that Anissa was suffering from a shared delusional disorder, and that while rare, a shared delusional disorder is a recognized mental health disorder contained in both the Diagnostic Statistical Manual 5, which is current, and the Diagnostic Statistical Manual 4TR. No wonder they call it the DSM. It's been recognized, diagnosed, and talked about since the 1800s when it was described by the French term folie à deux, the madness of 2. It develops between 2 or more people involved in a very close relationship, one having a psychotic disorder, and the other eventually developing delusions consistent with the more ill individual. We know Morgan Geyser is a schizophrenic, has schizophrenia, one of the most terrible and difficult psychotic disorders known to our society, one that in Middle Ages would have labeled her a witch and burnt at the stake. But we're not in the Middle Ages anymore. We do not treat sick children that way. Morgan's delusions were shared with Anissa over time and grew during their close relationship. Anissa told Trissani and the doctors that she saw Morgan as a sister, and she clung to her for dear life. These 2 children, very alone in the new school that they were starting in, found each other, found shared interests, and those shared interests fueled the fire in Morgan's mind and spread to Anissa. They had time together on the bus, 40 minutes each morning, 40 minutes in the afternoon. They lived in the same condo complex. They played in the park that poor Bill Weier could see from the door of his home, not knowing what was happening. But there's another place where they met, and where many of our children meet, on the internet, with emails exchanged back and forth, as Detective Casey said, at every hour of the day and night. Just because a child is not physically present with another child doesn't mean they are not in communication. It may not be the Vulcan mind control that Morgan Geyser spoke of, but it's an almost instantaneous connection between young people that is beyond, oftentimes, the sight of their parents and their teachers. Morgan's outreach about Jeff the Killer and letting go of logic and accepting Slender Man and Jeff the Killer and this creepypasta wiki as real tells of the development of this disorder in Anissa. Payton's observations of Anissa when she was with Morgan and when she was not also speak about what was happening, as did the report of K.N., Bonnie's friend from Flight Academy, who came in and told the terrible secret that she heard. The terrible secret that Anissa was planning on becoming a proxy and meaning to kill a friend. Not you, don't worry. But she was worried. And she did what any child would do. She reached out to an adult who said what adults do when children say things that frighten us. Just a kid. Quirky. A joke. Not serious. K.N.'s sister, S.N., heard the conversation between Mom and K.N. and went to her counselor. She sees a counselor several times a week at school because of her own issues. She told her this scared her, it might be a joke. There were warnings. There were signs. And as adults, we whistle past the graveyard because we don't want to see that a child is sick. We want it to be a phase. We want to look away. We don't want to see it because it frightens us too. Because we can't protect them at that point. We can if we react, if we step in. But so often we don't. A parent doesn't want to see it. A teacher doesn't want to tell. It's hard and it's hidden, but we need to be more open about mental illness in our society. We wouldn't be here if we were. You've heard from the 3 different doctors that Anissa was suffering from a shared delusional disorder. You've heard that this isn't just about her being a child, that this isn't just about her having been lonely. This wasn't just a lonely girl giving into peer pressure, but a delusion strong enough to kill for. Many children have someone they can turn to when dark images and dark thoughts disturb them, someone who can help guide them through. Payton was a perfect example of that. She turned to her mom, and her mom was able to sit down and surf the web with her and show her, this isn't true. Don't worry. Nobody's coming in your window to kill you. But Payton was 12. She still locked her window, slept far away from it, just in case. Anissa's family was not at a point where they could be that resource for her. You've heard about the pain and the emotional bombshells that had hit that home over and over and over again in the 2 years before this occurred. Anissa's father and mother separating and then divorcing, something that disturbed her enough at school that she sought out help in a support group. Mr. Weier's understanding was that she had sought it out herself because she was in pain. Not only were her parents suffering through this divorce, dealing with the stress and the pain, but even parents who try very hard to keep it away from the children, you can't hide it from them. They know you. They feel the pain. They see the separation. And their pain is there too. But they can't show it because you're hurting. Anissa's older brother and sister were hurting too. Not because of the divorce between their father and his second wife, but because their mother was suffering the last stages of a terrible illness that had plagued her since she was in high school. She was told you won't make it till you'd be lucky if you make it to 40. Well, 1 week short of her 41st birthday, she succumbed. Annie's older sister had actually skipped out of school. Mr. Weier told you about that. Contrary to his wishes, she skipped school so she could care for her mother in her last illness, and who could blame a teenager for that? And then that pain and that loss is present in Annie's world. In addition to the loss of her nuclear family, her brother and sister are suffering a pain that she can't help. Her father pleads with the younger ones, you have to help them, you have to make sure they feel comfortable, that they're okay. How can she tell? How can she reach out to them that are hurting so much that she's in pain too, that she's lost too? Instead, Annie, when she was at Prairie, reached out to an adult. You heard Mr. Haynes when he came in here. She spent her lunch hours and her recesses talking to him, crying, talking about problems with children, talking about her life. But once she got to Horning, he wasn't there. And Mr. Taggy, clearly, based on the tears at the end of his testimony, clearly cared about this child, but he hadn't had the years-long relationship. He didn't have the connection to Anissa, so this wasn't someone she could reach out to about something other than math problems. And so, all adult ties are missing for her. And she tried. Always the quiet girl, always the good girl, who worked hard, got good grades. The girl who wanted to learn to dance, but when her father told her he couldn't afford to send her to the dance classes, what did she do? She turned to the internet, to YouTube, and practiced dance moves alone in her room, just as she had on her own sought out the depression group at school. She tried to help herself. And as the sadness and darkness within the home grew deeper, and in Anissa grew deeper, she turned further for comfort to the web, to Morgan, and so to Slender Man. Even without an expert, all the evidence tells you this was madness, that this girl could not understand what was going on with her, what was wrong, nor could she stop it. Then when you think of the events of the day, the plan, the description of it as it morphed throughout the day, this meticulous plan that had been crafted over somewhere between 4 and 6 months.
All right, I just need to pause for a little fair use commentary, and I decided to use my golf voice. So you'd think that Anissa, as intelligent as she was, and clearly if she's seeking out depression groups, as the attorney described, that she would make the connection between um, what she was planning and ultimately resulting in a death, and what a death, the loss that it impacts a family as a result of a death. You think she'd make that connection? Would she make that connection? Was she actually seeking out help, or was she looking for potential cohorts, as it were? Because at the end of the day, Morgan spotted her feigning, malingering mental illness through pretending that she had tics and twitches. And Morgan caught it. And Morgan told her not to do things like that. It's not that mental health and mental illness isn't something to joke around with. So I don't know. Let me just keep going.
We'll use duct tape. Close her mouth when she's sleeping.
Okay, now I have to pause for not fair use commentary, but to wish our Roro a happy, happy, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. A happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Roro. Happy birthday to you. All right, here we go.
The only duct tape was what Payton brought as a present. Oh no, let's not do it now. We're sleepy. But they still had to do it. Let's try in the bathroom. You heard Dr. Westendorf talk about the incidents in the bathroom and how, again, it was conditioned on getting Payton to go to sleep, because that way you wouldn't see yourselves in her eyes.
So Neat Noodle says, "Am I the only one who believes Anissa Anissa really was mentally ill as well?" No, I believe that she was mentally ill. I think two things can exist at the same time. I do think she was mentally ill. What I'm not convinced of is that her mental illness rose to the level of not guilty by reason of insanity. That's what I'm not convinced of. I believe she was is mentally ill. I also think it's really quite possible that she has as of what we're watching now, because I don't know if that changes, but I suspect she suffers from a personality disorder as well. Let's keep going.
And the final incident in the woods where Payton was stabbed. Horrible, yes. Meticulous? No. Madness? Yes. Again, when you think of that day and the intense planning that we've all heard about through prior reports, you think of what they took with them. A purse, 2 water bottles, kudos, a peanut butter crunchy bar, and pictures of their families. Why did they take the pictures of their families? Because they truly believed they were never coming home.
Did Anissa truly believe they were never coming home? Because she seemed awfully concerned about not being able to go to school on Monday and breaking her never missing, what is it, perfect attendance at the school. So did she? Did she know? Did she really truly believe she wasn't coming back? Hmm.
When you think of the testimony of Detective Casey when he was on the stand talking about the note that was found on Anissa's phone, that he saw as a suicide note when he read it, that's really what it was. She was leaving her family, leaving everything she had to them, wanted them to remember her as she was. She was going to a place in her mind that was dark and dangerous, a place where they needed protection against the other people who would be there. The only protection from Slender Man was, as the list you saw in Morgan's science notebook said, run like hell. They knew that this creature was out there. They believed him to be a danger to themselves, and that's why they had their defenses list. And they believed him to be a danger to any child that was out there and their family. Again, this is delusional. And they acted on the delusion. The difference between a simple delusion and a delusional disorder is that the delusional disorder compels you to act upon it. And it's clear they were compelled to act. To harm a friend, to kill a friend, and to walk all the way to the Nicolay Forest. Years later, when speaking with a doctor, Anissa defined it as about 4,000 miles. We know when she spoke with Trasani, she said she knew it was a long, long way, and that she'd done an internet search that showed it was 200 some miles and would take 2.5 days to get there. A 12-year-old child sitting in the interview room knows it's a long way, doesn't know what the number is. A 15-year-old child talking to a doctor doesn't either. The 3 doctors who evaluated Anissa to assess her mental responsibility each brought different experience and evaluation tools to bear in this analysis. Dr. Caldwell, with years of experience evaluating and treating violent youth, brought internationally to teach other countries how to take care of their children. Does objective tests, studied tests, to determine a good objective viewpoint of the 12-year-old child who sat before him. She was smart. You can be mentally ill and smart. She was smart. She had a processing delay that made understanding complex information difficult.
I agree that Anissa is smart, but I also think Anissa is quite cunning as well. And you can be all 3 of those things. You can be mentally ill, you can be smart, and you can be cunning. And you can be all 3 of those things at the exact same time.
That fits in well with Ms. Reinder's description of how hard she worked, but how she had difficulty decoding, I believe was the phrase she used, accessing information within things that she read. It also fits with Mr. Tagi's description of the extra time Anissa took in processing redirection. Unlike other children, she would have to sit, her face would go blank, stew on it, and then do what had been asked of her. Dr. Caldwell also saw diagnosable mental illnesses, depression, an underlying schizotypal disorder, which left her vulnerable to delusional beliefs and the developed delusional disorder. And keep in mind, Dr. Caldwell saw her a month and a few days after her arrest. Saw her at the West Bend Detention Center. All the doctors, I think, were clear that they saw her at the detention center. Mr. Zapakowitz even asked, that's where you saw her. So they saw her while she was being held. They saw her, Caldwell saw her in 2014 there. Westendorf and Van Rybrook saw her in 2016 there, and Caldwell and Van Rybrook saw her in 2017 in the West Bend Secure Detention Facility. Dr. Caldwell brought the experience of using actuarial instruments to talk about Anissa. Dr. Westendorf, who's worked in prisons and detention centers and mental health facilities, has a practice that is now specializing in looking at the effect of technology on our children, which I think we all can agree played a role here. Dr. Van Rybrook, the director of Mendota Mental Health Institute and a UW-Madison professor who teaches not just psychologists, but who teaches lawyers what the meaning of not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect is. Also familiar with adolescent brain development. Dr. Van Rybrook and Dr. Westendorf were appointed by Judge Boren to take a look at Anissa and determine her mental responsibility. Both are dually degreed as doctor and lawyer. Van Rybrook's familiarity with the development of a child's brain led him to describe how the early stages of adolescent development when Anissa was 12 years old created a whirlpool of impulsive judgments, swirling her deeper and deeper into the delusion, not allowing her to withdraw from its hold. Dr. Westendorf noted that as the internet searches for proof increased, so would the information the web would vomit back into their feeds. Further evidence that fueled their delusions. All three experts had access to the police reports and the full recorded statements of the girls, both Morgan and Anissa. They had the reports generated about Anissa regarding her competence early in the proceedings, whether or not she could understand legal process, and the reverse waiver reports. The state asked about that. The doctors, they had access to that, and that information about Morgan as well, to give them the full picture of what was going on with these children. All three interviewed Anissa, and all three, independent of each other, found the same disorder, a delusional disorder. Found that this behavior was driven by mental illness, and all three agreed that the delusional disorder kept her from being able to conform her conduct to the requirements of law. Dr. Caldwell, who saw Ani a month and a few days after her arrest, also found that while she might have understood it was illegal, her need to protect others was so strong she could not understand the action was wrongful. Dr. Van Rybrook and Westendorf felt she couldn't conform her conduct, in part because she saw herself as serving a greater good, the protection of her family. And I think when you look at those conclusions, that factors in not just all of the information they received about Anissa and Morgan, but the fact that, as you heard Dr. Caldwell and Dr. Van Rybrook testify, they went to the websites that these girls looked at. They looked and saw the proof that Anissa and Morgan had relied upon. Dr. Caldwell referred to it as being the same sort of information that when he's looking at reports, when he's trying to create a report, the same sort of information that he would expect to look at. Police reports, doctors' reports, witness accounts, all of these fake news floating out there on the web. If we as adults can't figure out what's true when we look at the web, how much harder for a mentally ill child? You all know this is an unusual case. You've been asked not to determine what happened because Anissa told Trasani what happened. And she entered a plea in front of Judge Boren in the first phase of this case. Now, you've been asked to come here and determine why Anissa did this, and based on that, what we as a people think should happen to her. The jury instructions that the judge just had up on the screen tell you that I must show you to a reasonable certainty by the greater weight of the credible evidence that on May 31st, 2014, Anissa Weier had a mental disease or defect, and that because of that mental disease or defect, she either lacked substantial capacity to understand the wrongfulness of her conduct or to conform her conduct to the requirements of law. And yes, I am reading that off a paper because, like the full diagnosis that Dr. Westendorf gave for Anissa, I can't just spit that out. If I'm trying to think about what reasonable certainty means, though, I look at it in a medical context. If I went to a doctor and he ran tests and he told me I had cancer, I might want a second opinion. In fact, I would want a second opinion, and I'd want to hear that that was wrong. But if I went and got the second opinion, and that doctor said, no, you got it, he's right, I think I would understand that I needed to start treatment. But if I didn't, and I sought another evaluation, and that third evaluation told me, yes, you have cancer, I would hope I would have the common sense to be reasonably certain that I'd best start dealing with it. You have 3 doctors well qualified by both education and experience to make this opinion, and that's what they've told you, looking at everything. Not just what the police looked at, but also looking at the information on the web to understand where these children's minds were at. We know the police had access to that. You saw the list of websites, the list of links that Detective Casey had Detective Carpenter pull up for him. Both of them admitted that wasn't all that was there, but that's what they bookmarked, but didn't go to. The doctors did look at that and factored that into their analysis. Evidence has the greater weight when it has more convincing power than the evidence opposed to it. That kind of makes sense, as long as it's evidence that fits with reason and common sense. It tells you it's worth believing. In this case, the only evidence you have is that Anissa Weier meets the standard to be found not criminally responsible by reason of mental disease or defect. 3 doctors have diagnosed her with a mental disease or defect, a delusional disorder. They explained that the delusion was so strong, it prevented Anissa from conforming her conduct to the requirements of law.
Okay, so the one of the issues that I have is I am disappointed in the detective in that he did not go to the website and preserve the images and the things that they looked up as they were in 2014, because we know that after this happened and because there was so much surrounding the creepypasta website and Slender Man and everything, that they ended up putting, a what do you want? What is not a warning, but essentially a warning that this is not real. But I wish that they had preserved it in that moment. Of course, they wouldn't. I mean, how would they know that it could change and that this, but still, I wish they would have done that.
Dr. Caldwell, who saw her less than 2 months after the offense, also believed that while she knew it was illegal, in the bigger scheme of things, she did not understand the wrongfulness of it. The doctors came to these conclusions after reviewing all the information, including the entirety of the recorded statements. And again, as I said, perhaps most importantly, they also looked at what was feeding into these children's head while they were learning about Slender Man, about creepypasta, about life at Slender Mansion.
But also, at least let's just deal with Anissa because that's whose trial this is. Let's just put Morgan to the side because I think part of the reason that um, the jury came to the decision that they ultimately came to is because Morgan Geyser was such a huge part of this trial. And the fact of the matter is, they're two separate people with two very different issues. So, in my opinion, anyway. So, there seems to be, at least it's not like Anissa just accepted the information on creepypasta at face value. She did attempt to vet it, which is interesting to me. I do also believe that yes, she is mentally ill. I don't believe that her mental illness is to the extent that she could not um, con- uh, conduct her behavior in accordance with the law. I don't think she fits I don't think she fits the elements of not guilty by reason of insanity. However, there's a conundrum because when you acknowledge that somebody is mentally ill and she's so young, there does need to be a level of treatment and rehabilitation, but there also needs to be punishment. And I don't think 4 years is going to get it for either element, for either the treatment and rehabilitation or the punishment, quite frankly. Um, and so that's where I have an issue with respect to Anissa. But I will also say that I think that what the jury was trying to do is address both of the issues, and this was the only way to do it. But I don't think that Anissa should have been granted conditional release after 4 years. I just don't.
In the Nicolay forest that they were walking to that.
Yes, chicken shite.
They
The
knew
state goes
what
next.
was said by both girls. They knew from the police report, and I believe Dr. Van Rybrook, or it might have been Caldwell, saw also the statement of Payton. They had all of that evidence. They're not confused about it. They looked at the whole picture. Their conclusions are based on all that was a part of this offense, seen through the eyes of training and experience in evaluating children. The fact that the state doesn't like their conclusions isn't evidence. The state doesn't agree with them, but that isn't evidence. There is a natural tendency when a child is hurt, as Payton was, to want vengeance. But vengeance isn't justice, and we are here as a part of the justice system. Vengeance is an appeal to passion and prejudice, an appeal to ignore the facts and the law. The state is asking you to do that. And the judge has told you, you cannot do that. You must apply the law and the facts as you've heard them in this room. Vengeance is understandable desire here, but justice is what we as a society have decided is the right thing. Justice balances the needs of all to come to a result that as a people we have decided is good and right.
Let me stop you right there, ma'am. I really hope that you're not fixing to quote, "The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few." Please do not use Spock in this manner. Also, you misinterpreted the Vulcan mind trick. The Vulcan mind trick as Anissa described it, isn't a mind trick that is to be used on other people. It is a way to compartmentalize. It is a way to separate emotion from ration. Not really rational thinking, but more emotion from being analytical. It's separating facts and feelings, like you're talking about right here. But that is what Morgan was talking about. She was talking about it as it pertains to compartmentalizing, not trying to use it on other people. It's not even how it works, ma'am.
That's why we have a law that says when someone commits a crime because they have an illness that makes them unable to either stop themselves from doing the wrong thing or even understanding that the thing is wrong, that we commit them and place them in an institution for treatment. Judge Boren has told you that you have a choice to either convict and criminally punish or confine to an appropriate institution. There is no walking away for Anissa. There is no loophole that she gets out of.
While I agree somewhat with this statement, there is no loophole. She's not gonna, she doesn't walk away with nothing. She's either going to go to prison or she's going to go to an institution. That's it. Those are the two choices the jury has. I do think, though, that it's quite possible, and I would be very, very interested in hearing from the jurors. Maybe I can see if any of them were reached out to and then decided to speak on this, because I'm real curious how the jury felt after Anissa was released after 4 years. Now, I'm not saying that 4 years in a secure facility is a cakewalk. Okay, it's not sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops, but it also isn't prison. And 4 years is a very short time.
There is a consequence. There has been for the past 3 years. And it will continue one way or the other. But it is your choice which is the right consequence. And the evidence has shown you that the right thing is to find her not criminally responsible and commit her to an institution. Thank you.
Good morning. I'll thank you also. You've taken a week out of your lives. As Mr. Osborne said in his opening, that's what makes the jury system work, and we truly appreciate it. Thank you. Ms. McMahon, kind of at the close of her argument, used a word, vengeance. The state is not prosecuting Anissa Weier for vengeance. No one is here looking for vengeance. What this is really all about is the truth. That's what we're looking for. Ms. McMahon, in her opening few remarks, stated that this had to be done. Anissa knew there was danger. And when Morgan told her about, well, Slender Man might get us or our families, it doesn't really matter. Yes, it does. It absolutely matters. Mr. Smith told you in his opening statement, Anissa could not conform her conduct to the requirements of the law because she needed to protect herself and her family from immediate and inescapable harm from Slender Man. They told you they would prove to you that that was the case. The only problem is it's not true. There is no evidence to show that it's true. She did not believe it at the time they tried to kill Payton.
The silly thing about this was I didn't know I was in danger until after Morgan stabbed Payton.
The silly thing about this was I didn't know I was in danger until after Morgan stabbed Payton. The whole defense here is premised upon the fact that they had to kill Payton or Slender Man would kill them or their families. It was kill or be killed. It's just not true. The silly thing about this was, I didn't know I was in danger until after Morgan stabbed Payton. That's what she told Detective Trussoni within hours of this offense happening. Detective Trussoni told you that Anissa was very calm and composed during the interview.
Co-counsel got a little too anxious there and clicked the button before he should have clicked the button. And so we had that little human moment. Let's keep going.
She told Detective Trussoni she wanted to prove the skeptics wrong. Not we were in danger, not that Slender Man was going to kill me, not that Slender Man was going to kill my family. She told you that Anissa told her that in December or January, Morgan said, "Hey, Anissa, we should be proxies." And Anissa said, "Okay, how?" "Well, we have to kill Payton." Anissa said she was surprised by that, but also excited. Let's look at some of the things that she told Dr. Westendorf about this. She told Dr. Westendorf that in October of 2013, she was desperate for a friend. And I don't agree with any of the things that Ms. McMahon told you about Anissa's home life and parents' divorce and how that affected her. But it's the relationship that grew out of that with Morgan that played a large part in what happened here. She told Dr. Westendorf that she met Morgan. She clung to Morgan for dear life. Anissa was the one that introduced Morgan to creepypasta, but what she told Dr. Westendorf was that in February of 2014, Morgan told Anissa that they should become proxies, and they should kill Payton to become proxies. Anissa told Dr. Westendorf that she didn't want Morgan to feel crazy, so she said yeah. So at least when Morgan first tells Anissa this, she thinks it's crazy. She doesn't want Morgan to feel that way. Anissa wanted Morgan to trust her. She didn't want to alienate Morgan. Anissa didn't think Morgan was serious. They wouldn't literally try to kill Payton. They began planning. Anissa told Dr. Westendorf it was exciting to talk about, like discovering something new. They spoke about these plans almost every day. There were times Anissa thought about calling it off, but they were too far in.
Okay, so Tony says, yeah, she was desperate for a friend, and Payton gave her whole heart to that psycho hose beast to her detriment. See, I think that I would agree with this. And I also think that there is a difference in the dynamic that existed in the friendship between Morgan and Payton and Morgan and Anissa. In my opinion, based on the evidence, it seems to me that Payton actually accepted Morgan just exactly like she was. I think Anissa exploited Morgan. That's just how I feel.
Morgan was planning this whole thing out. Morgan was building this up. Anissa didn't want to pull the rug out from under her. She just followed Morgan because Morgan was doing most of the work.
So Nate says, I'm curious what y'all think about all three doctors saying she couldn't conform her actions due to mental illness. I think that there are some elements that existed in this crime that they might have just missed. And for me personally, the biggest element that suggests that Morgan, or excuse me, that Anissa could conform her actions due to mental illness is in that email exchange between she and Morgan, where Morgan calls her on the carpet for lying about seeing Slender Man, number one, and about feigning other symptoms of mental illness, number two. And this was before the murder ever occurred. So to me, that suggests a bit of feigning and malingering on the part of Anissa. And I don't think that any of the doctors would disagree with me saying it is difficult to diagnose adolescence. It's hard to differentiate between, it's just difficult. And so I think that, and I also think that there is the element of Anissa having 2 years between seeing some of between the crime and seeing some of these, doctors. It's not that I don't think that the doctors are competent. It's not that I don't think that the doctors did their very best and actually do feel to a reasonable degree of medical certainty that this is the situation. I just think that, Anissa is not the only child that they're evaluating in that time period. It's probably not even the only child they evaluated that day on top of their other practices. And I think that, I think it goes to the human element in all of this, which is people give different weight to different evidence. To me, that email exchange is very, very telling. I give it quite a bit of weight. Whereas the doctors, if they did see it, and we don't know because they weren't ever specifically asked about it, but if they did see it, would appear that they gave it very little weight. Just a difference in opinion. That's all.
Said again, I didn't think we were going to try to kill her. Does this sound like a kill or be killed situation? That they killed Payton because Slender Man was going to kill them or their families? That's not what was going on. There's no evidence of it. You have the opportunity to review all of the doctor's reports if you want, and nowhere in Dr. Westendorf's report does Anissa tell Dr. Westendorf that this was kill or be killed.
And you know what? The saddest thing about all of this is I actually hope that I'm wrong. I hope that I am completely misinterpreting this, that Anissa had 4 years was enough time to punish her so that she can appreciate the wrongfulness of her actions and what she did. And I also hope that it was long enough to rehabilitate her insofar as she might, if there's warning signs that come about in her day to day now that she has been released, that she has a strong support system, that she will reach out and get help. I hope that I'm wrong. I want to be wrong.
It's not in Dr. Westendorf's report. And I want to talk about what the doctors have said, because as Mr. Osborne told you in our opening statement, we do disagree with the doctors. We believe their conclusions are faulty because it's based on faulty information. We'll start with Dr. Caldwell because I think he did a really good job of explaining a delusion versus a delusional disorder. What he said was that what makes a delusional disorder is the compulsion element, feeling that you have to act. And he stated, and here, Anissa felt she had to kill Payton because of the threat to the life of her and her family. And it's this compulsion that led them to conclude that Anissa was not able to conform her conduct to the requirements of the law. Dr. Westendorf in her report uses the same terminology of compulsion. She says on page 24, they struggled psychologically with the internal conflict of intellectually understanding that their behavior was wrong, but feeling compelled to perform the alleged act for their own safety and the safety of their families. So it's this compulsion, this feeling that you have to act. And Dr. Van Rybrock talked about the same thing. He talked about how Anissa was painted into this terrible corner.
Hang on, I just want to pause really quick because I want to ask about this. Oh, is this the roommate murder, right? They found her not guilty? Wow. Wowie, wow, wow. Interesting.
And that the only reason she didn't comply was this need to protect herself and her family. It's not true. It's simply not true. The silly thing about this was, I didn't know I was in danger until after Morgan stabbed Payton. This is not kill or be killed. This is not, I have to act. This is, as Mr. Osborne stated in opening statement, a want. Ms. McMahon said she had to. It's not the case. It was a want. As I indicated, what they told you that they would prove here and that they would make you reasonably certain of was that Anissa believed she needed to protect herself and her family from immediate and irreparable harm from Slender Man. Was this immediate? Kill or be killed? Well, let's see. It started in December, January, February. I'm not exactly sure, but we have February. They didn't try to kill Payton in February. We have March. They didn't try to kill Payton in March. We have April. They didn't try to kill her in April. We have all of May, except the very last day, and they didn't try to kill her. We have May 31st. They go, actually May 30th, I'm sorry. They go to Morgan's after school. They don't try to kill her in the late afternoon. They go to Skateland. They don't try to kill her at Skateland. They come home. They don't kill her then. They go to bed. The plan is we're going to get up in the middle of the night and then we're going to kill her. But they don't do that. They wait till the next morning. The next morning, they don't kill her at Morgan's. They go to the park, play on the playground. They don't kill her there. They go in the bathroom. Don't try to kill her there. Finally, they go into the woods. We have this knife being passed back and forth. That's when it happens. Kill or be killed. Immediate and inescapable harm. It's not true. The state's position is not based on vengeance. It's based on what's true. Ms. McMahon mentioned the statement to KN that Anissa made. KN's the only other person that Anissa told about what was going on. And what did she tell KN? To become a proxy, we have to kill someone. Don't worry, it's not you. She never tells KN, I gotta kill Payton or Slender Man's gonna kill me or my family. Doesn't tell Payton or doesn't tell KN that this is kill or be killed. We want to become proxies. We learned from one of the teachers that Anissa was a tattletale at school, to some extent. If there was a problem, she had no problem standing up for herself, going to a teacher and saying, you know, these girls are giving me a hard time, or they're bothering me, or... You think if she truly believed then that Slender Man was going to kill her or her family, she wouldn't have told somebody? It didn't happen because she didn't believe it at that time. Let's look at what she told Lieutenant Warman. Remember Lieutenant Warman? He was the sheriff's deputy wearing the brown uniform. He took the stand and testified that he was the one that took Anissa into custody, and she was scared at the time. And the statement she made to him was, some people were going to kill my family unless I did something very bad. Well, she told Detective Trussoni that she had learned that from Morgan after the fact, when they were on this hike, this walk, this plan to go to the Nicolay Forest. During that walk, Morgan had said, oh, Anissa, by the way, I made a deal with Slender Man, and if we didn't do this, he was free to kill our families. That scared Anissa. Absolutely. Same way Morgan was trying to scare Payton, giving her emails about creepypasta stuff. That's when Anissa became scared. And it was because of that that she told Lieutenant Warman, some people were going to kill my family unless I did something very bad. If she truly believed since December or January that Slender Man was going to kill her family, if that's what motivated her, then after they stabbed Payton, she had no reason to be afraid. They did what Slender Man was requiring. He wasn't going to kill him because they killed. She didn't know whether Payton was alive or not. There was no reason for her to make that statement to Lieutenant Warman because they had satisfied what Slender Man wanted them to do. There was no more reason for her to be scared. The reason she made that statement to Lieutenant Warman is because it was after the fact that Morgan scared her. And that further shows that this was not done out of some fear that Slender Man would kill her or her family.
And I just have to pause for some fair use commentary, and I really do think that this bears repeating, okay? It's important to remember what the job of the jury here actually is, all right? Their job is to make a determination about Anissa's state of mind at the time of the murder. Not in the interrogation room, not in the, not in 2 years later when she's speaking with mental health professionals, but in that moment. And the closest thing to in that moment that we have to go on is that statement she made to the sheriff's officer and her interrogation video, because those existed the closest in proximity of time to when these events actually took place, and why the state is making the argument that they're making, which is a valid argument to make. If it's all about her state of mind at the time, then how could she be afraid of something she did not yet know? Because the argument made by the defense is that she had a shared delusion. She has a delusional disorder, and that it compelled her in such a way that they actually are arguing, A, that she couldn't appreciate the wrongness of her actions because if she did not kill Payton, then her family would be in jeopardy. They would be then in danger. So this was a way of um, protecting them, right? And that her delusional disorder was so great that she could not, what is the word that they use that I never can remember? Because I always want to say comport, but that's not it. You know the word, that she could not change or uh, conduct her behavior in such a way, right, that she was essentially compelled to do this. There was no way for her to stop. She had to do it. It was not a need, it was not a want. It was a must do situation, but just for that day. And you see, when you listen to the interrogation video, when Anissa finds out that Payton survived. If she were truly doing this out of fear that Slender Man would kill her family, then the moment she found out that Payton survived, she should be in the most fear. That would be the scariest moment for her.
You also need to take a look at how cold and calculated this plan was, especially on the morning of May 31st. You heard Detective Fisher testify about what Payton, the victim, told her. They were playing quizzes that morning at Morgan's house, and Anissa quizzed her, what if someone came up to you and started to try and stab you? This was preparation. This was planning. This was an effort on Anissa's part to find out how's Payton going to react when we start to stab her. This is cold, calculated planning at that time. This is not somebody who, at that time, can't comply with the requirements of the law. Please don't forget in all of this that this was a brutal crime. Payton was stabbed at Anissa's direction 19 times. She was in the hospital for days. As she stated, I could have died. Anissa, after the stabbing, led her deeper into the woods so she would die. Payton said, I'm pretty sure they wanted me to stop moving around and talking so people wouldn't find me. They left her there even though their houses were only a few blocks away. Payton got out of the woods only to collapse on the grass. She couldn't move, she couldn't breathe, she couldn't see. Anissa ran away because she wanted to prove the skeptics wrong. They wanted to become proxies, but Anissa wanted to keep her friendship with Morgan. Again, this really, if you boil this whole thing down, it's very simple. It comes down to, did she have to or did she want to? If you find she had to, if she really believed Slender Man was going to kill her or her family, well, then maybe she couldn't comply with the requirements of the law. But this wasn't a had to. This wasn't a kill or be killed. The silly thing about this was, I didn't immediately know I was in danger until after Morgan stabbed Payton. That's what she told Detective Trussoni. That's the truth. It was not kill or be killed. It was a want. And because it was a want, she could comply with the requirements of the law. It was a choice. A want is a choice. And it was a choice that she needs to be held criminally responsible for. The defense has not proven in this case that this was done at the time because she couldn't comply with the requirements of the law. There's no way you can be reasonably certain about that based on this evidence in this case. despite the fact that 3 doctors testified and gave their opinion that she couldn't comply. Their opinions, again, are based on their belief that this was a compulsion, and it's just not true. Thank you.
It's what they call rebuttal, and if I seem stilted in it, please excuse me. Normally, they get rebuttal, but because I have the burden of proof, I get the last word, which I think a lot of people would tell you I like, and I do. Anissa Weier believed that she could become a proxy of Slender Man, an internet demon that existed. In her mind, he existed. She became, over a period of about 6 months, convinced that he existed through her close relationship with poor Morgan Geyser. You saw that child, Morgan, singing in the room with Detective Casey. He seemed to think she was lying to him. I think my eyes tell me something else. Just as the recounts of her at school, playing with blood on her desk, being told to clean it up because she might be stigmatized, chasing children, barking on the playground, playing with Voldemort and Snape on the playground. The children all came and said to the teachers, "This is happening. Something's wrong." And the adults all said, "Quirky, wants attention." Anissa wanted friends. Do you think that the choice to remain with Morgan helped her in that quest? We know from her teachers that other children kind of liked her. She had a few friends in Flight Academy, and with those friends she also shared her interest in creepypasta, none of which got shared with the teachers by any of the students, because kids don't talk about those things. And people who are in a shared delusion don't share with outsiders. It's like the old Brad Pitt movie, Fight Club. It's the first rule of Fight Club. You don't talk about Fight Club. When you are in the control of an internet demon who can teleport and read your mind from wherever his eyeless face is.
Okay, I'm going to have to award her some points in the interview portion due to her correct use of a movie reference. Yes, the first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. She used that correctly. She is awarded some points. That's it. That's all.
You don't tell people, because what will happen? The internet, the wiki tells you what will happen. He will come. And you will die.
But she did tell people.
All 3 doctors were asked if...
She did tell people about her belief in Slender Man. That's how Morgan found out about Slender Man. Morgan didn't even know about creepypasta. Okay, let's keep going.
The fact that in her interview, Anissa said that Morgan told her about her deal with Slender Man after the offense changed their opinion. All 3 of them said no. This girl was under the control of a delusion that had developed between herself and Morgan. She was afraid to be crazy. She didn't want to be crazy. And she didn't want Morgan to be crazy. No one wants to be crazy. That makes sense. But a delusional system, to those who are not a part of it, doesn't make sense because it's crazy. Whether it's a pain in your toe that you believe the alien put there, the CIA monitoring your brainwaves, all of the different things you hear about over time, all of the different examples the different doctors gave of delusions. When you confront someone with a delusion with factual information that should pop the bubble of the delusion, the response is to believe that you are part of the conspiracy or think in Anissa and Morgan's case, that you can't see the danger, that they have this special connection and you don't. And because of that special connection, you also create a risk for the people around you, because if you spill the beans, he will come. And they had both seen him. One of the most telling moments for me when Anissa is talking with Detective Trasani is where she says, I needed to prove he was real because I saw him. I saw him before and after the offense. This was a real being to this child, and she needed to protect those around her.
Right, but in that same interrogation video that you've referenced, she's admitted that now, by now, I mean like 3 hours later, she admits that she doesn't think she did actually see him, and you're missing the point that she may have said that in the interrogation video, but she emailed Morgan and apologized for lying. That's it. But you also have said that she didn't want to be crazy. Excuse me, ma'am, but she did, because she feigned symptoms of some type of mental illness. Again, referenced in that exact same email. Just pointing that out.
Separating herself from her family was one of the most painful things she could do. She brought pictures along, as did Morgan, of their families because they thought they would never be able to see them again. She talked about asking Morgan, couldn't we wait another day, because she didn't want to leave her family, but she felt she had to. Because that special relationship, that connection, if you spill the beans, or if Morgan went ahead with the plan and went to Slender Mansion without you, would result in harm. And I know when in the statement Anissa said that to Detective Trasani, but we have a traumatized 12-year-old talking to a detective. Again, I don't think it matters when Morgan told her, but I don't know that her timeline is entirely accurate because she's 12. But to me it doesn't matter because, as the doctor said, the delusional belief was in the existence of Slender Man, this demon who could teleport, who could read your mind, who would know if you told because he always watched. You saw the pictures from Morgan's locker and the always watches written in the back of Anissa's Spanish notebook, not quite to the last page where someone might look, and not with her homework, but in the middle where no one would find it. He's always watching. And her friend is now always watching, and they're feeding into each other. And one of the things that I think tells you just how frightened and confused she was is if you look at the exhibit I've put on Exhibit 2. Detective Casey testified about this shortly before the party, May 23rd. Anissa hadn't turned in a choir assignment. She was in trouble.
Also, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that it was, while Anissa may have said that she wanted to put this off and that she wanted to do, one more day, it was Anissa who woke Morgan up. That's all. She actually fabricated that, and she contradicted herself. It wasn't anything. I'm not basing any of this on things that Morgan said. I'm basing it on things that Anissa said. First, she said that Morgan let her sleep in, and then later on in the interrogation, she said that she woke Morgan up. So who was really anxious to get this done? Who really wanted to stop it?
and her mom wasn't going to let her go to the party. What was Morgan's response? If your mother keeps you from coming, I will crawl in the window and add her to the list of bad people.
Bye, Neat Noodle. Thanks for being here,
What do you
babe. Have a
think
good
that
day.
meant to Anissa? When you think of the emails that have been sent to Payton about how they would come through the window to get her, Anissa knew her family was in danger.
The demons are
Anissa
busy,
knew she
Violet.
was in danger because her very thoughts could cause this demon to come.
Hey, Henry. Good to see ya.
At 12 years old, she had no way to protect herself from this except to follow Morgan's advice. And they swirled down into madness together. The state asks you to ignore the 3 doctors because they don't like what they say. And I think in part they don't like what they say because it's frightening. We don't want to believe children are sick, and we don't want to believe we miss it. You have the opportunity to fix what was missed. The evidence, all of the evidence that came in tells you that Anissa Weier was suffering from a mental disease or defect, that the combination of her mental health issues, the schizotypal, the depression, and particularly the delusional disorder, combined with her young age, kept her from being able to do the right thing, kept her from being able to understand that this was wrong and led to this terrible event. When you look at the verdict form, all of the evidence tells you that she suffered from a mental disease or defect, and all of the evidence tells you that she could not conform her conduct to the requirements of law. And I believe when you look at the evaluations that were done of her by Dr. Caldwell particularly, because he saw her less than 2 months after this event, when she was still that 12-year-old child, I also believe that she could not understand the wrongfulness of this. Did she know it was illegal? Yeah, sure sounds like it. But there are things that are illegal that are maybe not wrong. Or there are things that are illegal that in the moment that you are dealing with are not wrong. I believe, given everything that had overwhelmed her broken mind, this child could not see the difference between right and wrong and was compelled to participate in this. The judge has given you the opportunity to place this child under commitment and to give him the authority to place her in an appropriate institution. She's been held for long enough. Let's place her where she belongs. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney McMahon. Now, members of the jury, the duties of counsel in the court have been performed. The case has been argued by counsel. The court
All right, give me just 1 second. I got to pull this other video up. I thought that this went the entire time, but apparently I was incorrect. So let me go over here. All right, and pull this up really quickly. All right. All right, hang on just 1 second. Let me share the screen. All right, here we go. Oops.
And thank you, and good evening. We have the jury has reached a verdict. We've been told that they had the verdict at 7:47 p.m. As previously noted, we're asking have the alternates who have been here for the process to come into court. We'll now bring the jury in. All right, thank you. Please be seated. We have the jury in the courtroom. I'll ask juror 4161 if you're the presiding juror. Yes, sir. Okay, and has the jury reached a verdict? Yes, we have. All right, thank you. Then I'd ask you to deliver the verdict to our bailiff. I have the verdict. It is with dissenting jurors. I'm going to provide the verdict to the clerk, ask her to make copies of the verdict and provide it to the attorneys. There's an issue on the verdicts that I want to discuss with the attorneys. So for that to be off the outside the presence of the jury, so I'm going to excuse the jurors.
All right.
All right. So Lil D says, what happened to the other girl that helped? So Morgan, we're going to cover her next. We have the sentencing phase for Anissa tomorrow, which is Thursday, and then Friday we will begin with Morgan Geyser. What ended up happening is Morgan Geyser was sentenced to 40 years in a secure facility, a mental health facility. And that's what happened. But there's more. But basically, that's what happened. All right, here we go.
The jurors are returned to their jury room, respective jury rooms. All right, thank you. Please be seated. Without, at this point, reading the verdict, I wanted to review with the attorneys the issues of the dissenting jurors. There's 2 dissenting jurors on each of the 2 questions, which leaves a verdict of 10 out of 12. The dissenting jurors, however, are different for each of the questions. One juror is the same dissenting juror on each question. Then there are 2 other dissenting jurors, one in each question. Now, that is a potential inconsistent verdict. However, my reading of the law indicates that although that's an inconsistency, that there are sufficient jurors with a consistent verdict to then have that be the verdict. I want the parties to be aware of that potential challenge. That's my reading of it. If you want to take a moment, this is all on a 5/6 verdict with 10 out of 12. There's potential for this to happen, and it's been a litigated issue. I copied one case, pertinent parts of the case, 163 Wisconsin 2nd, 439, Zentek, Z-I-N-T-E-K versus Perchik, P-E-R-C-H-I-K, with the pertinent discussion in it. If you wish to take a moment to read this, I'll provide it for you to read it before we go further, and we'll be in recess for a few moments.
Certainly, sir.
All right. I determined at times we'd have a sidebar conference, and we have a way to administer that, but I thought this is a better way to address the issues. That's why I asked the jury to be excluded at this point. So we'll be in recess for about 5 minutes. I'll give you an opportunity to read the case. Doing that, I am concerned with the inconsistency. So I'll look for suggestions.
Judge, I'm very concerned as well. I don't believe, under the circumstances here, a juror can vote no for question 1 and yes for question 2. I don't believe that's jurors following the law under the circumstances.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, question 1 would be about appreciating the wrongfulness of the action. And question 2 would be the ability to, oh my gosh, I sat here and said the word in my brain multiple times. It's not comply. Comport is the word I'm going to use because that's the one that just wants to come out of my mouth. So they could not comport their behavior. I believe that's the question. So how, yeah, that is disconcerting. I have to agree with the prosecution here. Let's see.
I don't believe this can be a valid verdict. The Zentek case doesn't, in my opinion, really touch on this issue, given the separate defendants in that case, and I think the issues are just very different. Again, I don't think, given the mandates of the law here, that if you answer question 1 yes, then you answer question 2. If you've answered question 1 no, I don't see under any circumstance how you can then answer question 2 yes. That's completely inconsistent, and I don't believe that juror's vote should be counted as a yes to question 2, and that does not leave 10 yes votes to question 2.
So Chicken Shite says, why in the heck did they say they had a verdict? This is what I think. I think that this goes to an even bigger issue, which is jury instructions. Okay. I think that this is problematic, and we've seen it happen in more than one trial where the jury doesn't actually understand the jury instructions. Clearly, they didn't understand that every single person on the jury had to answer both questions the exact same way in order for it to count as an official verdict. And this is why I think in the United States, we might need to do something a little different. For example, I don't understand how we have a grand jury system where regular citizens are picked, but they serve on a grand jury for an extended period of time. Why can't we in the United States have a jury system? We have a jury system. Geez, Jen, a professional jury system where people get training and education in understanding the law and how it pertains to verdict forms and jury instructions, right? And use that instead. Because I have to say that as many trials as I have covered, I'm also not an attorney. And there are some times when I have heard jury instructions myself be read out and felt a little bit like, wait, what? So I think we need an overhaul in our jury system. I think we should consider professional jurors.
Attorney McMahon?
Your Honor, I think actually that Zentek would apply. And, Your Honor, the jury instruction does not state that the jury instruction gives instruction to the entire jury, not to individual jurors. And if 10 people have found that my client is mentally ill, then the question for the jury becomes, was she able to conform her conduct? Or was she able to recognize the wrongfulness? I believe that the analysis of Zentek that you need the requisite number of jurors for each question is appropriate here. Again, jury instructions are not specific to each juror. It is to the jury as a whole.
I read Zentek to state on the matter of inconsistencies in this type of verdict that it must be the same 10 jurors on each of the questions. And what I'm concerned about as I analyze the vote is that it's not the same 10. And that to me is the inconsistency in the verdict. Zentech,
I agree. If I would say, and I think the prosecution might say the same thing, that if if the same 10 jurors voted the same way, right, consistently, then on both questions, then that would be a verdict. But because they didn't, that's an issue.
addresses that issue. There's another case cited in that. I think it's Montgomery, Easy versus Montgomery Ward, that goes into more detail about that issue. So that would make it would bring about the inconsistent verdict issue. There is when I reviewed our jury instructions, the part of the jury instruction that discusses the 5/6 verdict does not include the language contained in instruction 180, which I'll send down. This may be a situation where the court would be in a position to give 180 and 520.
See, I think that this exemplifies what we're actually seeing here in the chat, which is there is an agreement that Morgan or Anissa is mentally ill, but could she? Let me rewind what the hold on a second, because that's really going to bug me. Hold on. Hold on. Give me a second. Because it's not comport. Hold on. Conform. Conform. All right. 805 right here. All right. So, I think that this goes to what the issues that we were having in the chat, right? That, we agree that she's mentally ill, but was that mental illness such that she couldn't conform her behavior or her behavior to meet the requisites of the law, right? And I'm not sure that that's the case here, but I also understand the very difficult position that the jury is in. What do you do in a situation with a child? I think this would be different if it were an adult, but with a child, how do you balance getting her help and punishing her at the same time? And I think that this is where the jury made a compromise. I just don't think that they understood that she would be eligible to apply for conditional release after 4 years. And they certainly didn't imagine, if they did know, that she would get it after 4 years.
On 1, cannot vote on 2. The jurors, clearly there are 10 jurors who felt that there was a mental disease or disorder. And the question then for the jury is, looking at that, do you find that the person can either not conform their conduct or lack substantial capacity to appreciate the wrongfulness? It's not directed to each juror. It is directed to the jury as a whole.
Well, again, although I appreciate the state's position, I'm reading the law to require the same 10 on each question. And this is not the same 10.
I understand that, Your Honor, but I don't believe that that is required, because in mental disease or defect analysis in question 2, they don't require unanimity on what the jury finds there, just that it be found. You could have 5 that believe that the person couldn't conform their conduct, and 3 that believe they couldn't conform their conduct and they couldn't understand the wrongfulness, and a couple who just believe that they couldn't understand the wrongfulness. It doesn't require that.
I think that, hold on a second.
Let's take a minute.
I really do think that in circumstances such as these, I think that it is, if we were to overhaul the jury system in the United States, that's a big ask, right? And also expensive. So my proposal would then be to start with using professional jurors in situations like this, where we're dealing with not guilty by reason of insanity or mental defect, because it's an affirmative defense. So the defendant is acknowledging that they committed the crime, right? But they're saying, I can't, but I don't, but you cannot hold me criminally responsible because of a mental health, mental disease or defect. That's a um, multifaceted defense and requires interpretation of the law and in the jury instructions by people who are not lawyers. So I think that it would behoove our jury system in the United States to start there. I think that when you have to start, there's a lot of interpretation of the law as it pertains to what they have to find and who has to find it, right? And both, the state and the defense all went to law school. They all passed the bar. They all got their Juris Doctorate, right? But each side is interpreting that law. It's the same law. The language is the language, but they're interpreting what that language means differently. So if professionals are having an issue, then certainly regular folks, you know,
The answers and the dissenting jurors with the attorneys and determined that I should re-instruct you on a portion of the verdict and have you go back and deliberate further based upon all of the instructions, including the new instructions that I'll give you at this time.
also, hey, Carolina. Hey, Lavender
So
Sky.
with that,
Good to
then
see you.
the alternate jurors are here so they can hear the instructions as well. And then we'll have copies for the 12 jurors who will be returned to the jury room. With that being said, I have the packet of instructions that you came in with along with the verdict form to be returned to you. Agreement by 10 or more jurors is sufficient to become your verdict. Jurors have a duty to consult with one another and to deliberate for the purpose of reaching agreement. If you can do so consistently with your duty as a juror, at least the same 10 jurors should agree on all the answers. I ask you to be unanimous if you can. At the bottom of the verdict, you'll find a place provided where dissenting jurors, if there be any, will sign their names, in this case use your juror numbers, and state the answer or answers of the verdict with which you do not agree. Either the blank lines or the space below them may be used for that purpose. You jurors are competent to decide the disputed issues of fact in this case. You jurors are as competent to...
Oh, thank you so much. Call me Sadie, Jennifer, very much for gifting award case studies membership, and Lil D got it. So congratulations. Thank you so very much. Thank you for supporting me in the channel. I appreciate that so much. Yes, Chicken Shite. He charges them to go back with a more clear instruction on how to deliberate and if you're going to be a dissenting juror, what that means. All right, so this is just about over.
Jury to the jury room for further deliberations, consistent with the instructions I've read to you.
All right, so they're going to go, and now we're going to hear the verdict.
No, jury's excused.
All right.
All right, here's the verdict, y'all, which I think we all know what it's going to be, but I'm curious how the if the state asks
I'll
for
ask
them to be pulled.
our clerk to make copies of the verdict to provide to the attorneys. I've read the verdict, I've reviewed it, I'm satisfied that both questions are answered, and there are 2 dissenting jurors on each question. There are the same 2 dissenting jurors on each question. Court will read the verdict. We, the jury, find as follows. Question 1. At the time the crime was committed, did the defendant have a mental disease or defect? Answer is yes by 10, 2 no. If you've answered question 1 yes, then answer this question, question 2. As a result of the mental disease or defect, did the defendant lack substantial capacity to appreciate the wrongfulness of the conduct or to conform that conduct to the requirements of law? Answer yes, 10 in the square, 10 for yes, 2 in the square for no, 2. I note that the answer, or the word yes, is circled in answer to each of the questions. I'm satisfied that the answer is yes to each of those questions. There are 2 dissenting jurors to each of the questions. They are the same jurors. I'm satisfied the verdict is consistent and proper. At this time, I'm going to have the jury polled. This will be just polling the 12 who decided the case.
Hang on before we pull the jury. Hey, welcome, Woman's Warrior. It's nice to see you. Welcome in. I chatted with you a little bit yesterday in Lil Red's chat. Thank you for coming. I appreciate that. Here we go.
Was this then and is this now your verdict? Yes. Juror 4161. Was this then and is this now your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 5723. Was this then and is this now your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 852. Was this then and is this now your verdict? Yes. Juror 6590. Was this then and is this now your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 9694. Was this then and is this now?
Follow the provisions of and the rules of the sheriff and being returned to your location to be released and to go home. It goes without saying that this has been a long week. You've done tremendous service in being part of the jury. I consider it to be an honor to be on a jury, and this has been a very honorable effort on the jury's part. So I want to thank each of you for that. I'm happy to meet with members of the jury after I've completed some other work in the courthouse. However, usually that happens at a different hour. So I'm happy to meet with members of the jury singly or as a group at some time in the future. You can call my office to make those arrangements. When I have these meetings, I don't talk about the case. I talk about the legal system and the jury process and how it operates. For you to know how the case progresses, you can call my clerk to follow up on what's happened with the case.
I like that he offers that because let's be honest, this is a very, very hard case. Okay. And you could see from the verdict that the jury did struggle with it. And I like that there's that option because I do think that jurors get invested and want to know what happened after they render their verdict. And I need to get with Sarah Bellum because she sat on a jury and deliberated. She deliberated. She wasn't an alternate. So I definitely want to get with her because I would really like to talk to her about her time as a juror and what all that, entailed and how she's feeling now. And I do think that it's awesome that this judge offers that. And Low Red says, thank you so much. I was able to fix my microphone and record my reading. Love you. You're welcome so much, babe. Love you too. All right, here we go.
Otherwise, you may be able to read about it in the papers as well. Again, this has been an interesting case, a long case. You've been away from your homes for a long period of time. I understand all of the issues you've had to the extent that I can, but I haven't been away from my home for this period of time and in a hotel without contact with people or papers and books and so forth. So
Chicken shite, chicken shite. Thank you for the super chat towards the Dr. B. Jen Lou roast of Bundy. We do probably need to roast Bundy. I just need to find a way to do it that won't result in a copyright claim. But if you're ready for a Dr. B and Bundy roast, there will be one of Grant Amato. So peanut butter and jelly together again, doing a roast. Thank you so much. That was really sweet and generous of you. I appreciate it.
thank you very much. I appreciate everything you've done. Have a great rest of summer, a great fall, and a great life. To our alternates, thank you for being so diligent and really so much on point with everything, too. We appreciate that totally. Have a great evening, then.
All right.
Actually, I have one more. Let me read one more instruction to you. You can be seated while I do this. Your service in this case is completed. Many jurors ask if they are allowed to discuss the case with others after receipt of the verdict. Because your role in this case is over, you are not prohibited from discussing this case with anyone. However, you should know that you do not have to discuss the case with anyone or answer any questions about it from anyone. This includes the parties, the lawyers, the media, or anyone else. If you do decide to discuss the case with anyone, you should then I would suggest you treat any discussion with a degree of solemnity such that whatever you do say, you would be willing to say in the presence of your fellow jurors or under oath here in open court in the presence of the parties. It is in the public interest that there be the utmost freedom of debate in the jury room and the jurors be permitted to express their views without fear of incurring the anger of any litigants or the criticism of any person. Please respect the privacy of the views of your fellow jurors. With that, keep in mind that we've gone to lengths to maintain your safety and your security and your privacy. That's with the jury questionnaires are confidential. They will not be disclosed. The use of numbers.
We all know all of this.
Create what's called an.
All right, hold on.
Mr. Nguyen, your motion is?
For judgment on the verdict, sir.
All right, thank you. Any motions from the state?
No.
Court will grant the judgment on the verdict so ordered.
Now we got to
Based
get
upon
to
that,
sentencing.
I will find that Anissa Weier was found not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect to the crimes charged: attempted second-degree intentional homicide, party to the crime with the use of a dangerous weapon. Satisfied that one of the crimes is a felony that occurred after July 30, 2002, with a maximum penalty with enhancers of 35 years. Court has previously advised Ms. Weier of the provisions with regard to possession of a firearm and possession of body armor. With that, I will order that she be committed to the Department of Health Services. I will order further that there be I'm going to order a predisposition investigation. Will order that predisposition investigation report be furnished to the court no later than October 2. I'll set a hearing with regard to the receipt of that report and to determine a disposition at such time as that report's received, and then we'll schedule a hearing. My intent is to set a review hearing within 10 days of filing of the examiner's report pursuant to statute. Court will sign the necessary orders.
Your Honor, until the dispositional hearing, will she remain at the West Bend facility?
I'll order that she remain at the West Bend facility, subject to review by the Department of Health Services, and the court will follow any recommendations they make for a transfer of residence.
Thank you, Your Honor. And if she is remaining in the West Bend facility until the dispositional hearing, will the court allow her to maintain the visits that she's been having and the time she's been having at
Yes.
the Waukesha Juvenile
Yes,
Detention Center?
yes,
Thank you.
so ordered.
Thank you.
With that, anything further from any of the parties?
No.
Anything further from Ms. Weier's attorneys?
Did the court wish to set a date for the review hearing?
No, I said I'd
With
set
the
it after I
disposition?
receive.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
After I receive the predisposition report.
Thank you, sir.
All right, but we'll be in contact and work out the
Well, it'd help if I would unmute myself so that you could hear what I'm saying. All right, so this is where I'm going to leave you for today. Tomorrow we will be going through the sentencing hearing. It's about an hour and 18 minutes, so not too long. And then Friday we'll begin with Anissa Morgan Geyser's sentencing hearing. Just to let you know, that one is lengthy, if I'm not, if I'm remembering correctly. And then we have, after that, we have all of the hearings that took place. Now, there weren't as many hearings for Anissa's conditional release, but there were for Morgan Geyser. And so we will definitely cover all of those. And that should take us right about to the time of Lori Vallow Daybell's trial. Also, while we're waiting for Lori Vallow Daybell's trial to start, we're also waiting for the judge to render her opinion with Todd Molis, and should he get a new trial. And I want to just say that as I've been working on this video to totally recap what happened, everything from the date the crime was committed to the trial and then to the post-conviction relief, I've learned a lot about even more than I actually thought that I could learn about. I thought that I understood the appeals process, but I learned some things. So one of the things that I learned, and I'll just share this with you before I let you go, is that a post-conviction relief is not an appeal. It's something that happens after all of the direct appeals are exhausted. And direct appeals are for trial errors, things that occurred during the trial that, had they not occurred, or there's, that a jury would find, a reasonable jury might have found the defendant, not guilty. But a post-conviction relief deals with things that happened after the trial. For example, ineffective assistance of counsel and new evidence. So that's really what the crux of this PCR is, right? He is arguing two things: ineffective assistance of counsel and an actual innocence claim. So I will have that video ready and premiered before we're supposed to get the judge's opinion back. Okay. So that's all that I have for you guys today. Now, tonight, we're going to be going over old Lori Vallow, Daybell, because Lori is doing all the things again and being extra in a way that none of us enjoy. So we're going to have to address Lori. All right. So I want to thank you guys all very, very much for being here. If you have not done so, please do your girl a favor. Give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down, whichever you think that I deserve. And I will see you all tonight to discuss Lori Vallow Daybell and her latest filing. All right. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you tonight. Bye.
Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got shit to do. Well, fuck you.
No malicious intent or effort was towards it.
No malicious. Finish her!
Minutes later.
We all do a little mad sometimes.
And you know this, man.